So, Vicky, I cannot even say how much I appreciate what you. It's as if you just gave us this incredible gift, and it is so directly tied into what we're going to talk about today. I don't know if any of those passages made sense, but hopefully they will, because what we're going to look at today is what does it mean to have what the Bible in the translations that we traditionally use calls the kingdom of God. What does it mean to actually see that manifested in the way that the Lord's Prayer discusses, may your kingdom come and your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. I don't necessarily think that that word kingdom is an accurate translation of the original language. And we can get into why another time. I really like what Vicky said, which is beautiful community. So I am going to say, may your beautiful community come to earth and your will be done within that beautiful community as it is in heaven. And so that's kind of the concept that I want to talk about today. And I also want to say that this is absolutely just my perspective. I am a grief counselor and a chaplain for a local hospice company. A lot of you know that. So I spend a lot of my time during the week driving around the Central Valley into the different places excuse me, that exist within our geographic region, all of them. The cool thing about what I get to do is that we care for patients literally from every socioeconomic, racial, ethnic, cultural background in this area. And it's such an incredible experience to be able to see all of that. And so a lot of this is just my opinion. So I'm not here to say, well, I'm the expert on all of this. I am not. So please go, and if something triggers in you, go research it. Find out this stuff for yourself, because I really think that it is an important season for our church to discover the beautiful beautiful community of God coming to this earth as it is in heaven. But I also think that it is something that we all have a part in, and our perspectives all matter very, very much equally. So we're going to talk about 5 things that I think are a part of that beautiful community. They are not by any stretch the only 5 things that are a part of the beautiful community of God coming to earth as it exists in heaven. There are many, 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 many things that this beautiful community includes. But I do want to share these as they have become relevant in my own life. And the reason that I want to share these, and why I think what Vicky said is so vitally important, and this idea of us being and continuing to evolve and grow and share this beautiful community, is because of the season that we are entering into as a church body. We found out last week that our friend, our leader, our incredible visionary director of our church is moving into a new season of her life and going to be resigning from the position in the middle of July. And so that's going to leave us in a new place and with new needs that I think we are fully capable of moving into and meeting ourselves. We are the people. We are the church. We, the people, are the most important commodities in this church. So we're going to talk about, within this beautiful community coming to earth as it is in heaven, first, the concept of bottom-up leadership. Second, the concept of grief and the concept of crying. Third, we're going to talk about the concept of rage and anger. And fourth, we're going to talk about the concept of partying. And lastly, we're going to talk about the concept of unity. So I want to start with this idea of bottom-up leadership. Each of us in here, and again, Vicki, thank you so much. Each of us in here is a leader. And I'm going to say that again because I know some of you are going, Each of us in this room is a leader. Some of us have had mentors and people in our lives that have allowed us to see that and see how that leadership can manifest itself. Some of us have not. When I took my first job on a church staff, I knew I was called to go there, but it took about 4 days for me to realize I didn't know what I was doing. And the pastor that hired me thought I knew what I was doing. I never told him that I knew what I was doing. He asked me what I had done experientially throughout my then pretty short adult life, and I told him. And he thought, okay, that sounds good. But I was always a part of an organization. I was never the leader of an organization. But he thought that by osmosis, being a part of those organizations that I was a part of would somehow translate into being a good leader. And I was terrible because I didn't know how to organize. I didn't know anything about building teams. I didn't know anything about having a mentor. I didn't know anything about being a mentor. I didn't know anything about helping other people find their own gifts and callings and encouraging them to bring all that they had into I had no idea what I was doing. And it took about 8 months for me to feel like an abject failure and for that pastor to basically say to me, you are an abject failure at this. That's not funny. But, well, it is now, I guess. But, so, and I remember going to a conference with like hundreds and hundreds of youth pastors, because that's what I was at the time. And I heard this guy from this big mega church down in Anaheim, church of about 30,000 people, talking about how good of a leader he was. And I was like, oh yeah, that's why I suck as a leader, because I'm not you. I should just go do something else. But I had a person in town, his name was Tom, and he was a friend, and he was another youth pastor, and he saw what was going on, and he said, dude, come hang out with me. You've got everything it takes. You just need somebody to show you how to unlock it. It's like, okay. So I did, and he was right. For about a year and a half, I just was basically his assistant. And he fed into me, he mentored me. He's 3 or 4 years older than I was. And he showed me that I actually could do this stuff. I say all that to say that all of us in here need someone like that. Last Saturday, I had the need, along with some of the other teammates that I work with at our hospice, I had the need to go and try and find shelter for one of our patients who is homeless. As a hospice team, we need a roof over someone's head in order to treat them. And that can be anything from a car to a shed to a room, anything like that. But we can't do care out on the street. And on Saturday, this person found themselves back out on the street. So I went to all the areas in southwest Fresno, including 3 or 4 shelters and recovery centers. And I got to talk to the directors and the folks that were in charge of those centers, and just thought, man, you people are doing the most important work in our city. But I also saw the population that lives on the streets hanging around those places. I was by far the minority there. And I realized that no one was feeding into these people. I mean, they were meeting their basic needs at the shelters, but what a need that these folks would have just to tell them, did you know that you matter? Did you know that your experiences? Maybe you've got compassion. Maybe you make good bread. Maybe you have incredible organization skills that just have never been given a place to land. And it hit me so hard that this is the first population I think that Jesus would go to if he were here today. And I think that because those are the kinds of folks that he did go to when his ministry started. That's the core of what bottom-up leadership is all about. It's not that there isn't someone who is, because some of those gifts include training, mentoring, that kind of thing. So everybody uses their gifts as a whole to figure out where their place of strength is. And part of bottom-up leadership is that you lead from your place of strength. I found out that I suck as an organizer. And I still suck as an organizer. But I found out that I could connect with people who are great at organizing and then tell them what I would like to have done. And then they would say, awesome, let me show you how to make it work. So I need that kind of person anytime that I'm doing anything that requires leadership. But my point is this. Every single one of us has a gift and has a necessity and is essential to the future of CUCC moving forward. And it'll be great when we find a new pastor, but we don't need a new pastor in order to be that and to start that right here, right now. Second thing that I want to talk about, I think I flipped it when I did the introduction, but I want to talk about this idea of anger and rage in the kingdom, in the beautiful community, of God. In this passage, and I won't read it again, but in this passage that we read out of Mark, we see Jesus going into the temple. He gets into Jerusalem with his disciples and the people that are his followers, and he goes right to the temple. And then he ransacks the place. He literally, if you think of it in terms of what he did, he knocked over tables, he threw chairs around, he literally broke the place apart. He lost his mind. This was not some guy who was showing no emotion while he was throwing tables around. He literally, as if he was a human EF4 tornado going in there, wrecking this place. And the reason that he was doing that is because this place that was supposed to be a gathering of people, just like what Vicki told us about, a beautiful community where every single person, no matter what your status outside of the church was or what your socioeconomic place outside of the church was, in the church you matter 100%. And Jesus loved every single person that was in there, and it was out of love and the fact that the church leaders were performing the same kind of top-down oppression to the people in the church as the government was outside of the church. And quite frankly, if I'm just being blunt, it pissed him off to his core. And he lost it. I'm not saying we should all go rage around the city. That will probably get us thrown in jail. And maybe there's need for that too sometime. But I am saying that as somebody who has a lot of anger, that I don't have to be ashamed of the humanity of anger. Because anger, I believe that everything Jesus did was to bring this beautiful community of God to earth as it is in heaven. I think that's the umbrella statement about his ministry. Again, just my opinion. But anger is definitely a part of that. And so many of us shame anger or try to avoid anger or don't know what to do with anger. And I'm not saying it's not a slippery slope, but I'm not saying that we should just willy-nilly go, throw stuff around. Like, whatever restaurant you're going to go to for lunch, don't do that, please. But it's a part of it. And there's so much repressed anger going on in the world right now because everybody's been told, don't show that. Keep it to yourself. I don't know exactly what the answer is, but I know that behind anger is a whole lot of pain. And once we can, as a beautiful community of God, connect with each other's pain, we'll have a better idea of what to do with the anger, or we will see the anger transform into something that is that is more peaceful. I don't want to say useful, but something that is not as tormenting as anger can be. And so I feel it necessary to bring that up, that as we move forward. The other thing is that when anger is involved, Jesus showed this anger for justice for the people that were being oppressed, the marginalized, the people that had no voice in the current system. And that is always a good use of anger, to give voice to those who are being silenced. Jesus wept. The shortest Bible verse in the entire canon of Scripture, Jesus wept. But he wept out of compassion. He wept out of empathy. He wept because his friends were hurting. He wept because Lazarus, his good friend, had died. But he also knew that he was going to raise Lazarus from the dead, and I've talked about that before, and we've talked about that before here in this space. I've been leading grief groups now for about 6 or 7 years, and we have people that have been a part of those groups for multiple years, 3-4 years, and to this day, they still, when they get teary-eyed, they feel shame. I'm sorry. I shouldn't be. Yes, you should. If ever there was a safe place for you to cry, it is here. Every single group that we have, we agree that crying is good, that crying is necessary. Science will tell you that crying is very healthy. It relieves pressure, it relieves stress, it relieves toxins. So when somebody, and we have people that wail because they, in their grief process, they discover new places of pain that they've never touched before. And we join each other. We encourage each other. We come around each other. And it's so amazing to see this deep well of grief and sadness and pain transformed into hope, because the community is embracing the one who is displaying so much pain. And that's what Jesus did. He wanted the family of Lazarus to know that he loved them because of their pain, and within their pain. He knew they were going to love him when he raised Lazarus from the dead, but he needed to know the depth. They needed to know the depth of love that Jesus had for them. And my hope and prayer is that we can enter into that same empathy and compassion as the beautiful community of God, because there is so much pain. There's so much pain in this room. There's so much pain in our community. But pain and grief, when it's joined and validated, can be transformed into new life and into something that brings hope. And a lot of times that hope is very surprising. And a lot of that hope is absolutely inspiring and helps people find their authentic selves and their purpose for continuing on in this life. And finally, not finally, 2 more. Jesus apparently was a sommelier, and he liked to party. Because in this passage that we read, which didn't mention anything about wine, but in John chapter 2, we see Jesus, the piece that I showed you didn't mention the wine, but the context is that Jesus was at a wedding. Jewish weddings lasted for several days. There was always drinking and music and dancing and celebrating at these weddings going on. And if you don't have any place to be the next day, and you know that after day 1 and you've been drinking and dancing and partying, that you're going to do it again on day 2 and day 3, then you're going to go full on into this partying that was happening. And Jesus was there. I guess Jesus was doing it himself. We don't have any notation of that, but it seems reasonable that in his humanity, as a part of this culture, that Jesus was partying too. And then they ran out of wine, and somebody came to Jesus because somebody knew that Jesus was a dude with some power, and they said, "Can you help us with this?" They didn't say, we ran out of wine, we should just go home. We've been here for 3 days. They wanted some more, and Jesus' concern was not the consumption of alcohol. Jesus' concern was that he didn't think it was time for his ministry to go public. But Mary, his mom, got involved and looked at him and said, you need to make more wine, son. And he's like, it's not my time. She said, I don't care. Now, get it done. So not only does he make a little bit more wine, he makes 180 gallons more wine out of water. And we know that the folks were inebriated because when they got the new wine that Jesus made, the guy who owned and was throwing the party came to Jesus and said, usually when we get to the end of the party, we save the worst wine for that time because everybody's too drunk to care what it tastes like. But you just gave us the best wine any of us have ever had. Now, you can draw your own conclusions of that. But it fascinates me that we avoid parties as, well, I did at least. When I was growing up, I don't party. I am a good Christian boy, blah, 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 you know. And I had a lot of judgment on people that did the very thing that Jesus was participating in. And nobody ever really explained this passage to me in this way. That's why I say this is my opinion. Go check it out yourself. But my point is that celebration, when Jesus talks about celebration, partying, that kind of thing, he is talking about full on going at it. So let's party together. Let's celebrate together. Let's sing. Let's dance. Let's be careful when we drink, but let's have some wine together, and let's enjoy the humanity that we all have. All of these things that Vicki just pointed out, they're not just to be used, they're to be celebrated. So let's do that together, because that is a part of the beautiful community. Finally, I want to talk about this idea of unity. Again, in the book of John, in the time pretty close to when he was going to be crucified, Jesus said a prayer, and it's recorded. And he prayed for unity for his current followers and for all the followers beyond that. And I want to make a real clear distinction. We're talking about unity, not conformity. Because there is so many beautiful ways of life on this earth. The people of this earth are absolutely the most valuable beings in this world. All of our backgrounds, all of our cultures, all of our practices, our ethnicities, our identities, so much beauty and richness. And this prayer for unity, I believe, was not that we all get our act together and act right. I think it's that we all get to know each other, our stories, our backgrounds, our victories, our pains, the things we love, maybe the things we don't like so much, but connecting in relationships. That's what this beautiful community is all about, a relationship between God and us, and that we are unified with each other, and that we are unified with God. We are this beautiful community right now. There are people out there beyond these walls that are craving and praying to be a part of this beautiful community. And I think it's so incumbent upon us that we not wait for a new pastor to come and lead us into that. Because, like I said, we are all leaders. And it begins right here, right now. So may we go with the joy and the love and the celebration and the empathy and the compassion and the wisdom that Jesus showed when he was a part of this earth performing his ministry. And may we see more and more people come to the awareness of the love that God has for them, of the incredible abilities that they have in their uniqueness. And may they become a part of this beautiful community, which will then start to actually will actually transform what's going on around us, so that the beautiful community of God can truly be a part of earth as it is in heaven. Thank you.